Right, let's move right on then and shift gears. Talk a little bit more in detail about what the auto space has in store in terms of the kind of auto sales numbers that we've witnessed, what is expected from the festive cheer. And we've got Kumar Rakesh, India Analyst, IT and Auto at BNP Paribas. Thanks so much for taking time out. I wanted to start off by getting a sense from you of the overall sales that we've witnessed for the month of September. Have there been any standout factors? Given the fact that the likes of an Eicher or a Tata Motors have missed the PV estimates?
Hi, good morning, Apni. Thank you for having me here on this show. So we'll have to bear in mind that the base for the month of September is slightly different than what we had last year, given that festival season this year is starting a little late compared to last year. And hence the base for September month was much tougher. And in that context, most of the companies have reported a growth on a YY basis. The trend which was definitely standing out is that within two-wheeler space, there is relatively weaker demand, and passenger vehicle demand has started picking up. And that is a trend which we expect should continue in the coming months as well. The more important month from the festival season perspective would be October month, where the most of the inventory buildup for the OEMs would be happening. I recall that by the end of September month, we entered into Pitru Paksh, which is an auspicious period for many parts of the country, and hence pushing inventory would have been relatively more difficult. And that is something which will start happening in October month. So most likely October month would be a much stronger month for most of the companies. And also base will also become relatively softer, and hence on a YY growth perspective as well, most of the companies will likely report a much stronger growth in the month of October.
The current reporting by auto companies is a pure function of inventory built up. See, this is inventory built up. We don't know what the festival demand is. God forbid if the festival demand is not strong, then we actually could be looking at a reverse scenario. High inventory built up and more discounting. So do you think one should wait for, let's say, October numbers at least or November numbers before we judge whether sales are good or bad?
That's a very valid point, actually. And over the last 2 years, at least, if you would see going into festival season, generally the expectation gets built up for a very strong growth across all the automotive segment. And then post-festival season, actually, we get to know which segment was actually delivering stronger growth. And especially for two-wheelers, we have seen inventory correction leading towards the end of the calendar year and early next year as well. And that is definitely a risk which we are running right now. We have talked on your show earlier as that there is a demand divergence between the passenger vehicle segment and two-wheeler segment. And those will start reflecting more broadly and more evidently in the coming months post-festival season, once we start realizing the actual demand and adjusting inventory in accordance with that. We think that for the passenger vehicle segment, the festival demand possibly would be in double digit, whereas for the two-wheeler industry, it could be somewhere in single digit.
Right. Let me just mark stock. So Kumar, we've lost your audio video feed there. PCR, our control room will just dial you right back up. You're back, okay. I'll like to draw your attention to specific in terms of two-wheelers, since you mentioned that, but I want to take that point forward. When we spoke to you couple of weeks ago, we were talking about this competition which was coming in the premium biking segment from Hero MotoCorp and from Bajaj. But looks like Eicher is still the Shahenshah. Nobody can challenge it.
So Eicher Motor definitely has a very strong moat in the segment in which it operates. Over the last 5-6 years, we have seen company competing against multiple different brands which came and tried competing in that segment. And it has definitely held a very strong positioning in that segment. So from volume perspective, definitely the company and market share as well, the company has held its ground pretty strongly and even in recent months. That being said, we haven't seen the ramp up of production and delivery by the competition as yet. And hence, as that starts happening in the coming months, we'll get to know better that how strongly Eicher's positioning is getting challenged in this space. Some of the companies are yet to start delivering or ramp up their dealership network. So the full effect of that competition is yet to show up.
I think I also wanted to figure out from is how the numbers for Ari actually stack up to the likes of a Hero and a Bajaj, because once they came out with their own premium bikes, the big fear was whether Ari is going to be able to hold up, how much are they going to eat into Ari's market share. What's been the reading as per channel checks this month?
Hi, morning, Aisha. So Royal Enfield themselves, they have been launching multiple new products. Recently also, they have launched their new Bullet 350cc. So at their end as well, there's a lot of product intervention which is happening and driving incremental demand or interest in their product. And that is something which is definitely resulting into footfall and the deliveries holding up and not losing out to competition, at least as yet. What we have to understand is that the segment which we are talking about is a very small share of the broader 16 million industry. These companies together collectively do a very small proportion of that. And hence there is a huge potential of overall market itself expanding. So while IRE volume itself may not see a dramatic impact, the industry itself, the premium motorcycling industry itself could expand. And why it has not happened so far? One of the reasons is that we didn't had a compelling product in the cruiser segment of the segment which we are talking about. If you actually see the premium segment in the industry in India is largely cruiser motorcycles. Sports motorcycles in the higher CC segment do not actually do really well in terms of volume. There's definitely a very strong customer acceptance and loyalty to some of the brands, but in terms of volume, it is actually cruiser. And we believe that that is the reason for that to happen in India, that nuanced difference, is because a cruiser bike gives the peak torque and at a much lower RPM because these are long stroke engines. Whereas a sports bike, you need to rev it to 8,000, 9,000 RPM to get the peak torque, peak performance of the bike, which is very difficult in Indian driving condition, as you can imagine. And hence these cruiser bikes become a very practical choice for customers. And we didn't have a compelling product at an attractive price point so far in the industry. And hence this segment has remained pretty small. And Ari was practically the only player driving this segment. And now with multiple players entering at attractive price point with a brand which customers see as aspirational, we do believe that this segment itself will start expanding and will become even more meaningful in the coming quarters and years.
All right. What about the outlook when it comes to the tractor sales and how you're looking at the overall rural demand pickup and that thereby improving tractor sales?
That definitely looks like sort of an inflection point, and we would rather wait for a month or so to get the full picture of how the tractor demand is playing out. For the last 2 months, tractor industry has started seeing a decline. It is already sitting at a very high base of FY23. So expecting a strong growth from here on would be too much of an aggressive expectation. But is it going to be a decline? Is something possibly October month would be a better month to get a better picture. And the reason is that we are now entering into a new season for tractor industries. September is typically the end of the older season. And people would rather wait for the auspicious season part of Navratri to start before they start making purchase of tractor. And that would be the time when we start getting a better sense that how strong the tractor demand is holding up. So far, it seems like in a flux.
Thanks so much for joining in and giving us your take on the entire auto space and what the outlook is when it comes to the individual auto numbers. All right, let's